Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Make sure I can see everything as we are. All right, cool. We got that on there like that. While we in here, let's type. How you guys doing? As I get us put together. All right, we can. Maybe we can pin that up top. All right, cool. All right. Check on what links we got. Cool. I like that I got the lag because it gives me that bounce back and forth so I can see myself. Supreme Day. I just wanted to get, it's been a little bit of a long time. Y'all ignore y'all know. No. Let's do this like this. Just like that. Let's get it like that. All right. Checking myself. All right, cool. Have you guys been? Hello. Divine Rising, blessed be, Supreme Rising to the day. Remember, today is the only day. They're mantras. Today is the only day that matters because when you get to tomorrow, it's always going to be today. So we're looking at what you're doing now. If you've looked at the poster on my page, I'm relaunching the class. Chakra and Shadow, if you're first time rocking with me. Chakra and Shadow is a 6-week course. Last year it got cut a little short because I had to go through my own surgery, go through my own stuff, but reiterating it. Anybody that was in the class before it got canceled, you're already in. But I wanted to talk about that as we filling in. Chakra and Shadow is a comprehensive class that is designed to go in the aspects of with your shadow work. When I look at a lot of classes, when I look at a lot of the teaching narratives, and that's what sprung me to have this go into this topic today, legacy level versus, and it's that copy and pasting versus it's copy and pasting versus the actual constructing in the process. A lot of times when I was looking at, as I'm sitting here studying chakras, and I'm sitting here I've done my shadow work, I've gone into the aspects of my therapy, what my practice is. I noticed that a lot of things were copy and paste. I noticed a lot of stuff is copy and paste. I was having a mad interesting conversation yesterday, and my homegirl asked me, she was like, yo, so why are there so many people that look exactly the same? And then I used the comparison of Shorty Red as an example. Like when you look at like Shorty Red, like you look at the music inside of that space. it's copy and paste. A lot of the things that we're looking at, a lot of things that we're dealing with, in that we always talk about low vibrational. We always want to talk about high vibrations. We always want to talk about high vibrations, high value men, low value men, high value men, aspects of that nature. We always want to go into these aspects. But everything, no one is, from what I'm seeing and I'm learning with myself, nobody's really constructing in the external. There's a few people out there constructing. There's a few people that I've worked with and we went through their sessions and they're constructing something inside of that space. But there's not a lot of people that are actually constructing something through their new process. One of the biggest things for us to understand is construction through that new process. A lot of times we get stuck in the, one second. A lot of times we get stuck in this space. We get stuck in this mindset. We get stuck in this place, in this mindset of what about what's not going to, one of the biggest things that I always talk about is you have to let go. And the main thing when we talk about letting go is letting go of the fear of no longer existing. One of the biggest things in the aspect of when you're really doing your internal work, when you're really facing yourself, when you're really going through the apologize, when you're really going through the I forgive you, when you're really going through that, like for example, a lot of people that go through the forgiveness phase, like, okay, I forgive this person, I let this person go. I forgive this person, I let them, I no longer allow them to control my emotions. But on the other end of that, what about you constructing your apology? What about you constructing your apology? What about you apologizing for, since you were moving under that traumatic, that unresolved, the uncategorized trauma, you were just the way you are. You were trying to be a man. You was trying to be a woman. You was trying to be whatever it was. You have to think about the people that you inadvertently and sometimes very maliciously inside of that space that you put hurt on. Or else all you're going to be doing, is repeating. You're going to be copying and pasting. You'll notice that a lot of times when we get into the simplest way of me understanding the different, giving you the aspect of what I think about when I think about legacy. I made some posts Sunday about the aspects of these levels. Legacy level can accept the challenge of their perspective in a way that they know that that's going to help them grow and expand. The high value or the high value that everybody's, that ceiling that we seem to get stuck at is, okay, cool. You've done all of this work. You've got all of this accreditation, physical material. You got all this money. You got this house. You didn't do all of this work just to have somebody come in and take it all away. You can accept the challenge of your perspective in order to grow. Then we come into the low value aspect. The best way to explain between high value and low value is there's three aspects. There's the high value discuss ideas. The high value they emulate events. The high level are dependent upon the comparisons of people, as opposed to the lower levels, they're dependent on having an idea, Now understand there's a difference between an idea. You can copy and paste, you can have 1,000,001 ideas. But think about the idea. You can have an idea of what you want your life to look like. You can express your idea. But it's kind of hard. This is one thing that I've learned. It's kind of hard to express your idea, it's kind of hard to express the idea when you don't understand what level you are in your emotional, with your emotional intelligence. You don't know where you're operating at emotionally, energetically. If I'm moving in a space of fear, if I'm moving in that space of survival or fear, then I can have a great idea, but that idea will be limited upon me selling what is in correspondence to that whatever emotion I'm feeling it from. If I'm feeling through the aspects of my insecurity, as an example, if I'm going through the space of insecurity, if I'm going through that space of feeling guilt, I'm going through that space of feeling shame that I should have been here by now and I should have did this, this, and this. Any idea that I conceptualize or that comes to me is going to stream through that shame. It's going to stream through that fear. And if I don't understand how to process those emotions, if I don't understand how to process it, when I'm getting the truth that I need, biggest thing, I always say this, the truth serves itself. The answer serves a perception. So you can get the answer that you need, but if it don't serve the perception of yourself in that wounded dialogue that you're still using, you won't accept it. But in all, it was the truth that you needed. The truth serves itself. The truth does exactly what it's supposed to do. One of my earlier things, when I was doing earlier videos or on my YouTube, when I was doing my Friday night lectures, we might start getting back into. When I was doing Friday night lectures, I was like, yo, the truth gonna do what it's supposed to do. But again, if I don't know what emotional level I'm at, I'll say things like this. Yo, I gotta put a precursor before truth. I gotta put a precursor before being whatever I am. Before accepting who I am, I must have a precursor. Because I don't have the ability to separate. Because I don't understand how to construct I don't understand how to construct the new being or the new entity that is me. I don't know how to process and accept the process of constructing this new aspect of me. It's why you got 95 people running around and they're all Mayat, they're all Oshun, they're all whatever. But if you come and look, like, except for this, because they won't let me change my name on Facebook. If I look at, like, for the aspect of understanding yourself, for example, whatever name you use, how does it work? How does it align with you personally? Not in a general sense. Not in the intellectual sense. But how do you integrate with that? See, that's the biggest thing about the aspect of coming into the legacy level. You're accepting the challenges that come. If you're always used to something popping up, like use an example. If you're always used to something popping up, every time you're about to take that jump, I just know, even if you don't say it, this is when we think about the aspect that suggestive dialogue that's been playing in your mind that you really haven't sat with. Every time on cue, something's going to happen that's going to shift. And since you're not used to being constructive in a process, you're stuck in the aspect, I don't want to think negative, don't want to think negative, don't want to think negative. You're automatically going to think negative. I'm only going to think positive, only going to think positive. Damn, negative shit's going to happen. Instead of thinking constructively. See, the biggest thing about that, the biggest learning process of this is when you're taking in this information, accepting where you are at. See, the biggest thing about the legacy level is accepting the challenges that a lot of us aren't used to. We can think that in times like give this example, then as a general aspect. I wasn't confident at all. I wasn't confident. I wasn't confident in myself. I wasn't confident in my approach. I wasn't confident in my appearance. I wasn't confident in my work. I wasn't confident in it. I was calculated. I was very calculated. The reason I was very calculated. I knew how to I knew how to run the numbers, but I wasn't confident in, if that means I always needed a precursor, i.e. to be a good man, I needed a precursor and I needed that preset after that. So good man, because I'm doing this, and this. Whatever external aspect defined me as a good man. Now, for the last 4 years, strongly, a part of my rising affirmations, a part of my rising day is me telling myself I am not a good person. I am outside of the feeling of comfort of being a good person. I act outside of the comfort zone of a good person. I love being outside of I love the feeling of acting as I am outside of being a good person. I love speaking out. I speak lovingly in my accepting my actions and the feelings as I am outside of the comfort zone of being a good person. I envision myself expanding past the limits of being a good person. I understand what it is to no longer be a good person. I can accept that. Building out this when we're working together, one of the biggest things that we go through when we're working together is building out that new dialogue for yourself. One of the biggest things that we go through is building out that new dialogue for yourself. Being able to establish, because it's one thing to build out the dialogue. It's one thing to, okay, I want to manifest this in my life. I want to manifest this house. I want to manifest this. But if I ask you, this is the challenging part of your perspective. If I ask you, if someone comes into your house right now, and house, apartment, wherever you at, and they ask you, yeah, it's kind of dark in here. I mean, are you in the middle of cleaning up? And you get triggered. Nah, see, that's why I need more space. I don't know where to put. I don't know where to put any of this stuff. I need more space. Here's the thing. Let me challenge your perspective real quick. What led to that point? See, the biggest thing about the aspect of the constructing and sitting in the process, in that acceptance, see, it's easy to acknowledge. It's easy to acknowledge some things. It's easy to acknowledge, but it's hard to accept. It's hard to accept, therefore it's hard to assess. Because after acceptance comes that assessment. That means you really got to take that assessment and an audit. That means you have to sit there. So you have to understand the constructs that you build inside of that space. That's one of the main things that I work on with my clients before we get into, because everything you're doing is already spiritual. That's what you come to realize as we're working together. Inside of that space with yourself, you're realize it's not about you separating from something. It's realizing how you have to, in order to separate, you must realize how you got locked in that loop in the first place. So if you're not this is how you know you're not present. The moment that somebody asks you, so, yo, you all right? Yeah, man, I just need more space. I got a lot of stuff and I ain't got no space. This why I'm looking for that new place, but my job is doing this, and precursors. These are precursors. My job is doing this. My partner, my significant other ain't shit. This is happening. You keep putting precursors before you. You see how unconsciously you do it. See, it's more than just when you consciously aware that you do it. You get triggered by consciously when you consciously do it, but you're not looking at when you unconsciously do it. You're not looking at all of the ways that you do it. Because a lot of time, because of that copy and paste narrative, because of traumatic experiences, because of the things that went down in your life, you're used to copying and pasting. Well, it's going to happen this way anyway. Well, I was just waiting for that to happen anyway. I was waiting for this to happen anyway. So you just copy and paste. Even when you do start to construct, you're so not used to the unfamiliar, because another level to it of aspect, I go into this all the time, that aspect of that comfort level, that comfort zone, and simply understand comfort is reaction. Comfort is simply reaction. Comfort is my simple ability to react. Yes, I know what to say to that type of person. I know how to act around that person. I know what to say. I know I have a list of probabilities that person and what that person is going to say and what that person is going to do and how that person is going to feel and how that person is going to do this, that, and the third. I know it's there. I know exactly. I know how it works. I know why it's going to work that way. I know I know. I feel as if I know. But here's the thing. Do you know how many people change on a daily basis? I mean, really think about it. You know how people actually change on a daily basis? And then take another layer to it, challenging your perspective. Why are you so pressed on somebody else changing? Why are you so pressed on, this is what we call the sentimental. See, the temporary aspect, like if you ever heard someone talk about, like, yeah, all this is temporary. The temporary or the temperament or the sentimental. You are now, a lot of times, because of that copy and paste narrative, because we're so used to moving in that vibration, because we're so used to moving inside of that space, because we're not ready to sit down and have that conversation with ourselves, because we're waiting for somebody else to do or admit, we're waiting for someone else to acknowledge, accept, assess themselves, apologize. Why? Because a lot of that goes based on you don't want to change your skill set. You got used to your skill set. You attached a lot of trauma, unresolved, impulsive things to the accolades and attributes. Your accolades and attributes were connected to trauma. Every time you walk into your living room, or wherever you got your certifications and your plaques, you're sitting there and you hear the echo of your mom's voice. You hear the echo of your mom's voice. You hear the echo of your father's voice. You hear the echo of your drunk uncle. You keep hearing these echoes. You keep getting channeled messages. I want you to understand. You keep getting channeled messages. But if I'm denying the simplest of my initial channel messages and the ports that they're coming through, I don't understand. Of course, you're not going to understand when you get a big message, or the big message, so to speak, because you're shutting down the other you're shutting down the precursors that you have to deal with first. You're messing up the conversation that you need to deal with first. See, this thing with the copy and pasting aspect is, okay, cool. I don't like this, so I'm going to go do that. Why? If I ask you the question, why? In the aspect of really challenge, okay, cool. I really need to sit with myself. I need to go through I want something that is familiar in this space. I don't know how many times for myself I wanted something familiar in that space. I didn't understand. Things you don't like, and that's being challenged. You think that the way that you speak, you think that the way that you express yourself is the only way. So you'll call it being I'm strong. Once again, a precursor. Where did you learn that strength from? Just so you think about it. Where did this strength come from that you're saying, oh, that you're strong? Okay, you're strong. All right, bet you're strong. Okay, you're strong. Why? I don't know if y'all remember when we were in school. If you remember from being in school, you can't put the definition, the word in the definition. It won't define it. You can't define the word with the definition, in the definition. See, a lot of times we keep going through these processes because you keep trying to put in the word that you found to define something, not fully understanding it. That word looks like it fit. That word sparks a feeling. Let's go back to what I did, what we built up to this point to. You don't know how to process your emotions, and it's okay. You don't know how to process your emotions. You don't know the root or the baseline of the emotional state that you're in most times. You swear that you're upset, but you're not really upset. You're just actually hurt. You actually feel a little discouraged. But to feel the actual feeling, to sit inside of the heart space, to sit inside of that sacral, to sit inside of and accept that, yo, I love being discouraged. Cause you said it before. I love being discouraged. Cause when I'm discouraged, that's when I do my best work. I move in the actions of being discouraged. Cause that's when I get to prove myself. I love the feeling of being against the wall and feeling discouraged and feeling down and out because it makes me get my shit done. Can you sit with the honesty of saying that I am used to the detriments of being discouraged? Can you sit in the space of I'm used to making others feel shame? See, that's the other side. That's the processing of constructing that new space. One of my favorite things to say to all of my clients and anybody that I work with is I do not provide a safe space. There's certain things, like this is another level of constructing and creating new processes. I'm not going to copy and paste the subscription to I provide a safe space. If I understand, and if I'm in the understanding that the natural human narrative is to seek comfort, is to seek safety, is to see the lower aspects of myself, the humanity aspect is to seek comfort. That means if I hear safe space, just because it's safe doesn't mean, if it's a safe space, that means I don't have to get uncomfortable. It's a safe space. So I started subscribing to, I create a secure space. I create a secure space. Because think about it like this. You can be in the hood. Let's think about it. You can be in the hood. You can be in New York. You can be in Philly. You can be in the hood. Be out there in the hood. But you think about this. And feel safe. But you're not secure. You're comfortable. Peace. You're comfortable because you know exactly how to react in that space. You know if you're a woman, young woman, you know walking down that same 4 blocks, down to the corner store, down to the bodega, there are 3 dudes over there that are going to catcall you. You know exactly how to react to them. You know you woke up. You woke up in a discouraged mood. You didn't acknowledge that you were in a discouraged mood. So you didn't assess the feeling of feeling discouraged. So you couldn't audit the actions of what you do when you're discouraged. So you couldn't sit there and say, okay, cool, I'm I'm in I'm in a shutdown space right now. You couldn't build all the way up. So now the first thing that you do, you're waiting unconsciously to go down that corner. Them dudes gonna say, "What's up, bitch?" Da 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 da. Say whatever they gonna say. You know they are. Thank you. You know they are. You know they gonna say it. And you know you're gonna be able to say something slick back to them. Because that's going to appease you feeling discouraged about yourself. It's gonna appease you. That's a safe space because it feeds your comfort, your ability to react. Now give a different approach. The aspect of security. You woke up. Now you know you go to that bodega every other day for something that you don't need. You just used to going to that bodega because it's there. It's been there. You got a nice hot ham and cheese. You got a hot ham and cheese. You got a bacon, egg, and cheese. A little salt and pepper on that. You got that over there. But you know you ain't supposed to be eating that. So now that's changed when you come into a secure space. See, a secure space has to be built. A safe space is there. Safe space because it's based on your comfort zone. Outside of your comfort zone, you have to build the secure space. That means you have to acknowledge. You have to assess. That means you have to sit with that auditing process. Acceptance inside of that process. That means you're going to have to sit there with the process of releasing. You're going to have to sit there with that process of releasing. You're now constructing a secure space. I provide a secure space. You are allowed to be discomforting, to be in a state of discomfort. Working with me, sitting in a session with me, there's been plenty of times sitting in a session with me, the first 15 minutes of a session, if you want to let it all out, let it all out. You're secure. You're secure. Let it all out. Get uncomfortable. Let it all out. Me securing the spaces, okay, cool. Then let's breathe. Simplicity. Let's breathe. Take a deep breath. Hold it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it out. Hold this last breath. Pull up on your pelvic muscles. Hold it. Breathe it out slow. How do you feel? I feel light. Now you can start expressing your feelings. You start expressing your feelings. Because now you're constructing security. One of the things that you have to construct now is security. And you must now, once you say, okay, I am secure, I feel secure, I act insecure, I act in a secure space, in a secure state. I love being secure. I speak from a secure space. I envision myself being secure. I understand what security is. You're not lying to yourself. There's a version of you that you're not used to. This when we talk about there's a version of you that you're not used to. One of my favorite analogies is the version of you that's going to buy a house is not a renter. That means everything you did that was accustomed to the safety of you renting a space is going to be in total detriment in opposition to you buying the space. So now you're creating that new space. So now I am present. But now this is the aspect of building out that these are the dynamics of legacy. One of the things that I've been going over for the last couple of weeks, just in the aspects, like just in my overall, is really understanding what protecting the legacy is. What protecting my purpose is. One of my favorite things that I've said ever since day 4 of my process of going public and being in the public sector of showing my work is, it takes a lot more discipline to do what you desire than to do what you can. It takes a lot more discipline to do what you do what you want. It takes a lot more discipline to do what you want than to do what you can. to do what you can, all you have to do is wake up and fall into your safe zone. All you got to do is wake up and go work that X amount of hours at that job, get that paycheck, and then because you're in a safe space with yourself, reaction, and you haven't felt that feeling, you're feeling that feeling that you don't know how to sit with, that feeling of lack that keep coming up, that feeling of deserving something, which is actually entitlement that you don't want to acknowledge. That's the feeling that got you that's the feeling that got you at the store. That's the feeling that got you on Amazon. That's the feeling that got you emotionally eating. That's that feeling that got you locked in that space. I worked 50 hours this week. I deserve some good food. Once again, you're putting a precursor. If you took away the word good, okay, you're deserving of now you have to look at it as, because this is the thing with the precursors that we put into our lives. Good person, good food. We keep putting that precursor in between the things. If I sit here and say I need food, that means I must acknowledge it. I need food. I need nourishment. But if I say I need good food necessarily isn't nourishing. So how many other things sitting in that space, how many other things have I put good in front of that are not necessarily nourishing? How many things have I put good in front of, for me, from that divine masculine perspective? How many things have I put good in front of that are not guiding in a constructive manner, in a progressive manner? How many things have I put good in front of? How many times have I put good in front of me being a good nigga and a good man when I'm not being the provisioner from the highest point? I haven't created that process. I'm used to copying and pasting. So when we start peeling back that layer, like, damn, one thing that I sat with. I remember, like, I saw a post, it's like a long time ago in the dark. It always repeats itself, copy and pasting. But it's someone always says, like, if you're in a room with all of your exes, if all your exes are inside of a room, it took me so long proudly to go through the process of sitting there with myself, like, I'd be good. I would be present. I wouldn't be good, wouldn't be bad, I'd be present. I could honestly accept that in every ex, it's not that many, but every ex, every woman that I entertained, they were the best version of themselves to me being the best version of myself. Any expectation that I had for them, any expectation that I had for these women in my life was due to me not having truly established standards. My standards were not truly established. See, your standards in the aspect of that, learning how to challenge your perspective, your standards are intangible. That means they cannot be fabricated. They cannot be facilitated externally. The thing that used to mess me up all the time is because think about it, you spend more time at the end of the relationship getting over a person than at the beginning of the relationship building with the person. Think about it. We literally do it back. Like, if you think about from a traumatic process of not really knowing the courting process, we legit put courting after dating. So we'll date this idea or the expectations that we have of this version of this person that we see. We're dating the expectations, The expectations, since we're dating the expectations, this is the construct before we start copying and pasting. Because we have not built out a skill set that matches our expectations, we put in exemptions. So it becomes expectations lead to exemptions, lead to emulation. So now you done jumped out of this relationship, the dating phase. It didn't make it to where you wanted it to make it to. And now you courting yourself. This is where I really need to sit down with myself. This is the process that a lot of us go through, that a lot of us have been through, and a lot of us go through because we're not used to actually sitting with someone without the expectation. Remember, this is a secured space. It's not a safe space. See, a safe space, in my head, how it works in that mindset, a safe space is an expectation. Well, I know how to do this. Because think about it. You inside of that safe space. Think about you being in the safe space. You sitting in the safe space. And what do you start doing when you're in the safe space based on comfort? Well, they don't have this, so I can do that. This space doesn't have this, so I can do, but I got that over there. So you automatically start filling in the space. This is how we fill the space with the expectations and the exemptions. It's okay for now because I have this and I got a job, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing this. They don't know any better. Maybe they're hurting. Then we start filling it. So now at the end, now you start courting a new idea. You start courting new event. Now you go back through the courting process. Now you're stuck in the courting process. Instead of you shifting the courting process, which is the construction process, in the dating aspect being the second phase of the process. Dating or the plan. You've made the plans in courting. You've made the plans in the constructing of the courting. You see how you align. You see this person's actual interest. You actually see the conceptualization and challenging yourself in the perspective of what you're looking at inside of that space. You see it already. But because you're not used to it, this is the thing. Because you're not used to it, at a certain point in time, because you're not used to the standard, we're not used to creating standards. We're not used to the unfamiliar. We're not used to the unfamiliar that unfamiliar space of sitting in the feelings. You're not used to sitting in that space. So if I'm not used to sitting in the space, what am I going to do? My mind would go fucking banana. My mind would go wild. My mind would go wild with thoughts, ideas, and everything else. My mind would go berserk with thoughts and ideas and everything else of how this event should be, how this person should be, what this person should have, where this person should be at. Why do I have to suffer? Why do I have to suffer because of your lack? I'm living in lack. Why do I have to suffer because of your insecurity? I haven't created standards. Even though, yes, i.e. I'm not insecure, I haven't created the new standards of security. Because the new standards require that. That's just where that discipline comes in. See, the process is to learn the new disciplines to what you're constructing. Say it again. The process is the learning of those disciplines, the vetting the space for those disciplines in order for you to understand what you are constructing. But if I'm not used to acknowledging, okay, it's going to take I got to think about it. It took this many one of my favorite things, another one of my favorite things to say, one of my mentors told me, he was like, don't nobody know you. Nobody knows you. Nobody knows you. I want you to understand that. One of the biggest things that I had to sit with and understanding was nobody knows you. This version of yourself that you are unfamiliar with, this aspect of yourself that you're unfamiliar with, this conceptualized aspect of yourself that you're not familiar with, how do you think someone else is familiar with it when you're not familiar with it? How can somebody accept you as this version that you're becoming when you haven't built out the standards of that person? One of the hardest things that I had to realize, one of the biggest things that I had to sit with was I had to stop making those exemptions. Because I was letting go of expectations and building out my standards, I had to let go of the exemptions. That's the presets to the unresolved narrative. That's kind of like you buy a car. You buy a car, and the first thing you do when you get inside of the car is you go to the radio. For some people, you go to the radio and you set all your presets. Or as soon as you go into the new job, you automatically you look for the person that thinks they're a manager. You look for the person that thinks they too good to be working there. You look for certain things because those are your presets. You're used to looking for those presets, those exemptions. The things that are going to make it easy for you to dissociate with the space. How many times have you sat there and said, I'm going to go to work and make money and go home. I'm not here to deal with anybody. I'm not here to fight anybody. If anybody got a problem with me making my money, then I'm not. How many times have you said that inside of a space? How many times have you showed, unconsciously not realizing what it was, you showed this dissociative bias towards the space that you in? Or you showed dissociative bias to the people inside of us acting that are in a certain situation and position. See, that dissociative bias, that's big for the copy and paste. That's good. That's big for the copy and paste. You went to that job and you almost said, I'm not going to like that girl. I'm not going to like that dude. I'm not going to like that manager. I'm not going to like this person. So now, because you have this expectation, you just created an expectation, even if it's a warmed over expectation, you're going to start putting in the exemptions. Because that manager that you said you didn't like, they the one that gave you that day off when you wanted that day off. Okay, they might be a little bit cool. That one dude or person that you didn't like, they picked up that shift for you, or they worked that shift for you, and you thought, okay, they might be a little bit cool. But now, because you're used to the copy and pasting, you know you got trust issues. Because you said you don't, these people, because it came, at the root of it was actual insecurity, separation, the fear of rejection. Let's talk about those aspects. The fear of rejection, the fear of not being accepted, the fear of abandonment, the fear of distrust. Let's talk about those at the root of those things. So now you're going to push the envelope. This is the thing. In that copying and pasting, you're so used to pushing the envelope in spaces that you know that you're able to react in. This is where we get the control. This is where we get the control of certainty narrative. This is where we get that control of certainty narrative. This is when we think about, use example, i.e. we think about relationships, and the way we construct the control of certainty is if I'm making the money, then I'm the one that should be able to make the rules. I shouldn't have to change. They got to appease me. or sit inside that space. So now your whole development of how you evaluate your emotions is I want you to think about what you're saying at the root. When we think about we use the term of money in the essence of control and certainty. I am entitled to act and behave in these patterns. I am entitled to validate my feelings. But it's okay to have your feelings. It's okay to sit in that feeling, but it's not for somebody else to validate it or to experience it for you to see it by your actions. So that's why, use an example. If you love me, you will. I love hard. All of these aspects activate the heart chakra. All of these aspects bypass. All of these aspects are when you're going to, because you're always using Maya in the aspects of balance. It's another level, and we'll be getting into in the class. When you're digging into the aspects of the self, this is learning how to use practical application of this information. If you're not used to using a practical application of the information, that's why you keep ending up in the same space. Because you're not using you're not actually applying to the practical application process. That means looking at where you personally are and what you personally need to be doing. Remember, it's not going to be the same. If it was going to be the same result, then what would be the purpose of even doing it? See, this is the aspect of, this is the legacy level. A lot of us get to this, a lot of times we get to this space, we see it, there's 900 podcasts of it, I said it every other week. But we look inside of these spaces, you're used to being a high earner. You want to be that high earner. You want to be valued at the highest point. You want your value validated as high. You want your trauma and your skill set to be validated as high. But if my skill set is based and I've created it and I've groomed it in lack, that means only at the highest points, in any high point that I get to, it's going to be a breaking point that's going to be based on lack. The only reason that I can go into that party, the only reason I can go to that event is because it has fired a bunch of people. I find safety in spaces of lack. See, when we talk about these affirmations, we got to go on both sides of the coin. When you're going to the aspects of apologizing to others, that's when you got to say, yo, I used to accept being insecure as a way for me to prove myself. I used to accept others' lack, others' shame, others' guilt as a way of being a shoulder to cry on. Remember, it's the unconscious narratives also. It's not just the things that you consciously done. It's not just the things when you're being like, well, they shouldn't have did that to me, this, that, and that. They shouldn't have did this, and that. They shouldn't have done that. And if they did this, I would have did this and we would have been okay. All right. You can't prove that to yourself. You can't even prove that to yourself. So you damn near can't accept the challenge of proving the other part to yourself, accepting that you like to control certainty. You want to control the certainty. You want to control the certainty of a certain space. You want to control the certainty of a certain environment. You want to control the certainty of a certain result. You want to go in and you want to sprinkle the distraction you want to put the distraction in the blunt. You want to put that distraction in there. You want to pad. I remember going into spaces. It's kind of like, this is the reason that I remember, you don't like the manager. You don't like that manager because they pad their authority. You're used to the manager. You're used to the manager. You're used to the relationship. The reason that we get so stuck in relationships, you get so stuck in conspiracy theory. A lot of the aspects that when I'm working with people, you keep getting stuck in those aspects The reason why is because you're used to the authority being padded. You're used to someone padding the authority. Think about it. You're used to someone padding the authority. But the more that I pad the authority, it's only for me to exempt myself from responsibilities. A real nigga don't go through shit like that. A real nigga gonna ride for everybody. So you want to lack the responsibility of being able to actually communicate your emotions. See, I'm a real chick. I stand behind, I fight. Yeah, I might get a little argumentative, but that's just part of being a real one, being an alpha. Okay. You want to avoid the responsibility of how captive your behaviors are, how captive your abilities are, how captive your skill set is inside of a certain space. That's why you pad your authority. That's why you pad your authority. You're so used to padding the authority or setting that precursor or the presets when you go into the space. It's why you have every person that I can look. I'm not saying that I'm 100% on point when I shoot, even though I'm Agent 47 inside of that, right? I'm not even saying that I can accept. Here's the big thing. I can accept that I'm not 100% for sure in every space. I can accept that. I can accept the challenge of my perspective. Because I hold no expectations, therefore the perception of an individual that they feel that they've been viewed as, I'm unbiased. So now when you're going into that space, you having that conversation, you doing that in that space, the only reason that you went in there is because you can pad the results. You're used to that emotional padding. You're used to that emotional padding. You're used to it. You're used to the emotional padding. You're used to going through the results and the actions and the results and the actions and everything else. You're used to going through the results and the actions and the results and the actions that keep leading you to the same thing. Like, okay, cool. Because remember, comfort is reaction. I was so used to being to myself, but the way that I was being to myself, the way that I was moving in the actions of being to myself, the way that I was holding myself to the actions of myself was creating that distance. I was creating that dissociative bias. I was creating that dissociative bias. You know what I'm saying? I was creating a dissociative bias. So a lot of times you're going to a space and just like we're talking about precursors, the same way that you went shopping, the same way that you hopped on Amazon, this is how we repeat a lot of things, the same way that you hopped up on Amazon and you ordered the shoes you didn't need, the projector you didn't need, the keyboard you didn't need, the headphones you didn't need, and the same way you ordered, whether it was Fabletics or the Under Armour, the same way that you ordered them same things, the same reason when you ordered those same things inside of that space was the same way. It's time for you to lay down and take a nap. The same way that you kept staying inside of that same space, that same being with yourself, is the same way that you went and ordered all the crystals. That's why they kept happening. That's why the energy was still the same. You ordered the crystals, you ordered the bath, you ordered the bathing ritual, you ordered all of those things inside of that space, and you just did the same thing. So now you're saying what's the thing we said? Remember, we're dating the idea before courting the process. You're dating the idea before courting and building out the plan. You're dating the events in your life before courting and sitting with the feelings about said event. You're courting yourself inside of that. You're courting the people. That means setting expectations, putting in exemptions before actually courting with what are these behaviors and patterns that what are the behaviors and patterns that I'm really about with myself? One of my biggest things was sitting with, damn, I'm not used to I don't like sitting with people because I can read their bullshit. I would say that shit all the time. But in reality, it was 50-50. But I always lean towards the negative aspect. I kept leaning towards the negative aspect. I kept leaning towards the negative aspect of being inside of that space of this is why I don't fuck with people now. Because they always doing this, they always doing this, they always doing this, they always doing this. But in reality, a lot of these people, I created that space. And this is where the reality gets hard a lot of times. I created that space. I created that format. Let me break this down. I created these formats. Gratitude. I created these formats. My definition of support came from the lack. Remember, we talked about it 1 second. It came from the lack of something. It didn't come from a full space. It didn't come from a full space. So if my idea of what love and support is came at the result of not receiving love from my mother, not receiving the love the attention, the spaces of emotional development that I thought that I should have got from my mother and my father, then every time I create something, it's going to be based on that same thing. And since I'm moving inside of that space, guess what happens at the end? Since I'm courting and I'm setting up the exceptions, in my mind, because we get so used to the littlest things. The most littlest thing, the simplicity of something. We get so used to the simplicity. The littlest thing. I don't know how to accept it. Or when I do accept it, it's always an immediate, okay, cool, shit, they did that, so I'm gonna do this. Oh my God, shorty bought me some headphones. She know that I'm very tech savvy and I like a good pair of headphones. I'm gonna take her on a beach trip. I'm gonna take her over here. I haven't vetted this person past that certain point. We haven't had she noticed something about me. So at the end of it, I put an exemption. I put an exemption to my own rule, my own standard, my own lack of standard, and it's going to show me my lack of standard. This is the thing that we don't like. We don't like being shown we don't like being shown when we didn't have a standard. We don't like being shown when we didn't have structure. We don't like being shown when we were being too rigid. We don't like being shown that it's a wound and it's not an attribute. We don't like being shown that. Which is understandable. But that's a part of the constructing the new space for the new process. That's a part of constructing the new space for the new process. That's the aspect of due process. That's the process of due process. understanding. That's the new process of sitting like, okay, cool. I do have to sit with myself longer because I'm not used to sitting with myself. I'm not used to sitting with myself for these long periods of time by myself. I had to accept that. You're going to have to accept the true, it's more than just the accepting of it. You're going to have to really go through the assessment process. Not just acknowledging, yeah, I don't like sitting with myself. And then what comes up after you sitting with yourself being because it's going to be negative. It's going to be negative. It's going to trigger the shit out of you. It's going to piss you the fuck off. It's going to expound those emotions to the surface. It's going to bring up all the little intricate pieces that you had, all the fragments to that mirror that you shattered to not look at yourself in that space. That's what the shadow work is. That's what dealing with the shadow is. That's what sitting with that process is. You're not trying to make it, you're not trying to make one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to the aspects of dealing with trauma in the healing process that we have become accustomed to is we are removing or omitting it. So we'll get black obsidian. For example, you'll get black obsidian, black tourmaline, one of the many black crystals and stones. You'll grab it. And you'll do a cord cutting ritual. And you know you will. You'll do the whole cord. You'll sit there. You're sitting there in your living room. You're sitting there in your tub. You're sitting there in your bathroom. You're sitting there in the kitchen. You're sitting there in the car. Because we've all done that shit. And you sit there. I cut all cords that are attached to me. I cut all cords. You acknowledge the cords you acknowledge the cords of all the bad people. You acknowledge all the cords of the people that didn't know your worth. You'll acknowledge all of the cords of the people that didn't know your value. But the moment that you start sitting there and the feeling starts coming up from your end, this is where we get stuck in the exemption aspect or the expectation. Oh, someone's attacking me when I was doing my spiritual work. Nobody was attacking you. That is your own unresolved pattern, your unresolved habitual habits, your own unresolved, uncategorized, undefined, underdeveloped, since we want to talk about demons, your own underdeveloped genius, your emotional intelligence coming up to the surface. Because when you cut a cord, you release the tether that's keeping that weight sustained or suspended. This is why every time you sit in there, you pull some cards, and you see the hangman, and then you see you might see the 10 of swords and the hangman right after it. And you be like, you give it the intellectual answer. But right before that, it got the lover's card in front of it. So you put the lover's card, 10 of cords, the 10 of swords, and you pull the hangman. And then you're thinking, oh, that person, they're just, I gotta push them more. You can't see but we've been through so much and we've done so much work, and it's not him, it's the family. It's not her, it's these people. If she just starts to listen to me, or if she just does this, or he does this, and he does this, or maybe because of this. But you totally forget that you are accustomed to the actions. You're accustomed to the actions of the insecure. You have never defined your insecurities. You acknowledge you got insecurities, but you didn't accept the processing and construct the new process of dealing with your insecurities. So you can accept it. Now you don't understand that in the physical space, you have manifested connections to the insecurities. Because your idea of being insecure, as I said, as I opened this up within the space, for me, I wasn't confident. I wasn't confident in myself. I wasn't confident in myself. I just knew how to calculate and pinpoint and say this here and say that there and say this here and put this. I knew where to put things in order to keep me in the cut so I don't really expound and go out too far. I knew how to use, well, I'm from here and I'm over here and I'm from here. And well, if this person, I knew how to use that to my advantage. But if I was to sit there and be like, confident? Hell no. And that confidence showed in the earlier parts of my work with myself. That confidence showed when I'm doing a spiritual bath. That confidence showed when I'm doing a spiritual bath. That confidence showed when I was doing a spiritual bath and I'm laying in the water and somebody sends me a text message. It sends me that text message. And it sends me that text message. Or somebody asks me, what am I doing? And I can't simply explain to somebody, yo, I'm taking a bath. The simplicity of me being able to say I'm taking a bath. I'm taking a bath. I'm taking a self-care day. Instead, I'm taking a self-care day. I don't want someone to say, oh, you taking a bath? Nigga, you take baths? This be like the boss would say things of this nature going down that line with myself in the space. And I'm sitting there realizing like, yo, I'm not really confident in what I'm doing. So how can I expect, as I get rid of this message, how can I expect, you know what I'm saying? How can I expect a certain result? How can I expect certain results to happen in my life if I'm not displaying the energy at that level? How can I expect security for myself to be secured, to be in balance, to be secure, to be in balance if I'm not administering the processes of security and balance? I don't know what balance is. I don't know how balance works. I'm not going through the constructive process of like, I don't even remember where I first learned where I learned this thing that I call balance. I don't know where I learned this aspect called structure. I haven't accepted where I learned this at in the base. I haven't accepted it. One second. So how can I ask for something that I'm not? This is the simple aspect. How can I ask for something that I'm not giving myself truly? When I haven't acknowledged, I haven't went through the acknowledgement process. I haven't went through that acceptance process. I haven't went through that hard editing and auditing process. See, the human aspect, the human trials and tribulations, as they'll be called, inside of that space. It's very hard to sit with, once again, it's very hard to sit with the damn, I was the one that made a decision because I felt I was against, the world was against me. Here goes the truth to a lot of shit. One of the things that I had to sit with myself with a lot of shit with myself was I kept trying to live by this narrative that wasn't even true in the first place. I could say I came from nothing. I can say that I came from a space that wasn't based on love. It was based on this, and that in a dissociative text manner. But ultimately, in order to detach from that, I had to accept, and that's the hard part, I had to accept it. Yo, I didn't get the love that I felt that I should have got in development. I didn't get it. I didn't get it from that space. But what I did receive was A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Because I can guarantee, because I've sat in sessions when this has happened, with that aha, watching a client have that aha moment. And you sit there and you're like, damn, what if I was seeing that through my own wound, and I didn't have all the information. Here goes the key, one of the keys. How can you be upset at something because you don't? The only reason you're upset or you hate something, what's hate? Hate is the lack of knowledge, the lack of knowing, the lack of understanding, the lack of knowing. The only reason that you can hate something is because you don't. Like, think about it like this. Down to the types of food that you like. Every time someone asks you as a grown ass person, it sits there and says, yo, so, how do you hate Brussels sprouts? I don't know. I ain't never tasted them. Lack of information. Yo, how can you hate these people? How can you hate, like, give an example. How can you hate white people? Brother, do you understand what they did to us? It's a lack of information to keep you present. They didn't do that shit to you. They did it to our ancestors. Okay, they did it to, okay. But where in your narrative was the construction to that connection? See, that becomes that hard part. When you're really, because everybody wants to say, ooh, let me get my DNA, let me do this. Have you went through the points, or are you just intellectualizing the information? That's the big, like, are you just intellectualizing the information? How are you using the information? It's okay to go gather the information, but do you have a source outside of you that can challenge you on that information? That means, as always, but one of the biggest things, it's not just because I'm a mentor that I say this, advisor, teacher. It's like, do you have somebody that can challenge that? If not, well, there's the thing. If you don't have somebody that challenges your thought about what you're bringing to that, what you want to debate, and you don't have somebody that you have picked and you have chosen yourself, it will be provided for you. It will be provided for you. And it'll be provided to you. It's all provided to you energetically. So if you went and found that information because you were going through this sense of feeling lost, if you went to go find the information, the conspiracy theory, MK Ultra, the shit about churches, whatever information you went to go gather, you went and gathered it because you were feeling lost, you were feeling shameful, you were feeling distraught, you were feeling discouraged, you were feeling separated, you were feeling that feeling. The energy, that energetic trail of what needs to challenge that perspective in order for you to apply it is going to come that same way. It's going to come in that equivalent wavelength. That means it's going to come just as lost. It's going to come just as ignorant. It's going to come just as insecure, if not more. It's going to come It's going to come that way to create that new friction, to create that new conflict. The reason you fear conflict is because you don't understand conflict is natural, because without conflict, i.e. friction, there cannot be any chaos, i.e. potential for the new growth to assume the new order with the disciplines that you need to tap into. It's not there. You're so used to I was so used to acquiring a certain skill set and applying a certain skill set to things. I was so used to applying a certain skill set, acting a certain way, being a certain way, moving a certain way, waking up a certain way, that anytime something challenged my perspective on the why that I'm doing this, I always went to something in the past. I always went to, so since I was used to going to something in the past, guess what I would do in the present tense? Guess what I would do in the present tense? The same thing. I'm doing the same thing in the present tense. It don't matter what information that I gather. It don't matter how much information that I gather. I'm doing the same thing. That's why it feels so. That's where you get that false feeling, that misconception of you're doing something, because it's familiar, because it feels safe. But the safer it is, the more unsecure it is. The safer that we have to start changing that perspective. The safer something is, the more comfortable it is, the more expectation that I put on it. And then when it doesn't do what I want it to do, if it gives me what I want, I put an exemption to the rule. But if it don't give me what I want, that's why I don't fuck with that new shit. You know what I'm saying? That's why I hate this. That's why I don't do this. This is why I don't do that. This is why I'm not used to doing this. This is why I stay within these aspects of these spaces and patterns. This is why I keep acting the same way. You don't want to admit that to yourself, though. You must rather copy and paste. You must rather sit there and be like, cool, yeah, I'm right. Everybody else got to be wrong. Because look at where I'm at. Look at what I have. I do an assessment of what you have. Do a full assessment of what you have. Do a full assessment. Assess everything. Sit with yourself in that space. It's one of the most destructive processes amongst the processes. That reconstruction to build it out, the new standard. Instead of waiting for the copy and paste, because this is what a lot of us do. We're stuck within the copying and pasting of all I have to do is do just enough to be noticed. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of the matrix. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of the matrix. Into what? You can't sustain outside of a structure. That's why you're down here. That's why you're in this space. Yo, I'm gonna move this way. I'm gonna build out my. You're stuck in the earning aspect. You're stuck in that space based on, I'm gonna try to earn this, and you have not built up the discipline or the level of focus that it requires to sit inside of that space. And that's okay. That's okay. But that's where you start. That's why you start. That's when you got to look at, like, damn, I had to admit, I did a lot of shady and dirty shit to people, not even from the space of, well, I didn't put it in their arm. I didn't put the needle in their arm. I didn't put the pipe in their hand. I didn't do that. I'm talking about the shit that you did I'm talking about the shit that you did unconsciously as a result of that. To break out of that pattern of good and bad. to accept like, yo, this needed to be done. This is how you, this is when we break down processes of, there's like another one of my favorite analogies. Another one of my favorite analogies in a negative sense. Right now, you cannot go back, when back in the day it was a positive. You got breastfed from your mother, or your mother fed you. Your mother breastfed you. It was positive. It provided all the nutrients that you needed. You can't go back to your mother right now and go get some breast milk. That don't make it that don't make it any less positive. It just doesn't serve you anymore. There's negative things that happen to you that if they didn't happen in the order that they happened, if you didn't react the way that you needed to react, that was of necessity for you to react in that space, you would not be in the space that you at right now. This wouldn't be available to you. And even if it was accessible, there's a difference between available and accessible. You can assess some shit, but you can assess some things, assess some shit, access some things. You can have access to something, but the availability within that space is a totally different thing. See, a lot of times we look at, like, when we're thinking about, because we're not used to separating, we're so stuck in the collective. We need to come together and build it. We're so used to, we need to come together. We need to come together. We're so used to that aspect in space. We're not thinking about it from the space and the thought process of, I have access to that space, but the availability inside of that space, I do not have the ability and or capacity for what's required to be inside of that space. I don't have it. And that's okay. That's all right. Like, for example, before we get into some readings, if you're interested in a reading, the link is at the top. I'm gonna put the link in again. The link is right there. Go right here. Pop that link in. Paste. Link right here. Live readings. I appreciate the stars. I'm still getting used to how stars work and whatever. But yeah. What was I saying? Similar to the class. Gratitude. Similar to the class. I want you to understand something. One of the biggest things that I needed to sit with myself, I had to sit with it for a good minute, was just because I had access did not mean I was supposed to be there. One of the hardest things that you sit there and realize is, just because you have access does not mean you mean to be there. Give an example. Just because I can go to 125th, just because I can go to Lenox Ave, just because I can go to Jamaica, just because I can go to those places, just because I can go to those places doesn't mean, just because I have accessibility to those spaces. The first thing I need to assess with myself is, do I have the ability and capacity to sustain myself in that space? If I go to McDonald's, use it as an example. If I go to McDonald's as an example, I know McDonald's at this point in time in my life will will probably leave my stomach all types of fucked up for a couple of days. Cause I'm having ingested, it's not just, cause this is the aspect of, this is ability and capacity in this analogy. It's one thing to be like, give an example. You can say, I'm not going to give my kids shots. My kids ain't getting no shots, all that poison they putting inside them. But the poison is not simply in the shot. If you've never seen the Batman when John Nicholson played the Joker, please go look at that. You're going to have to understand that it's not just in the shot. It is a collective of things that must come together to manifest things into this reality. See, this is practical application. In order for something to manifest, all 5 senses must be active, or all 5 energetic points must be active. It must be used concisely, so all 5 points must be used. They all must be in balance. Masculine, feminine, earth, wind, fire, water, spirit, ether. All these joints must be active in order for it to even work. But if you're not used to constructing processes, you won't understand, you won't be able to embrace the beauty of when someone says, I don't see how you can go to school, sit down that long. I don't see how you can do this. I don't see how you can sit there and cook that from scratch. I don't understand why you with that. I don't understand why you around this, this, and this. You never understood processes. I remember never really understanding the process. So think about it like this. You can sit there and be like, all right, cool, I'm not giving my kids the shot. You can even give your kids healthy food. You can bathe your kids in you can put your kids in the bestest of water. You can make the bestest of decisions for your children. You can give them the sweetest of direction. But if you're not grounding your child in constructive spaces, you still talking, if your child comes to you and they talk about the aspects of, if you go to your child use a child as an example, if you go to your child and your child expresses their feelings to you, and the only thing that you say is because I'm grown, you fucked up that child's grounding. So what you're trying to create is not going to manifest as it should. It's going to manifest as it needs to, as necessity, as the result to what you've done. See, that hard part in that therapy process, when we go through therapy, when we sitting down in them sessions, is sitting with what and how you created a lot of these points. And why and how the loop keeps going loop-de-loop, loop-de-loop, loop-de-loop. How you keep looping into the same thing, how you keep meeting the same people, how the same person keep coming around because you haven't sat with the full point, the full perspective of it, but it's okay. But as I wanted to say earlier, first off, because I know this video is going to be listened to over and over and over again, if you were in the chakra and shadow class last year, it was in August to September. If you were in the shadow and chakra class last year, that means you paid to be in shadow and chakra last year. If you are aware, I went through my own aspects, removing some shit with my surgery. So the class got ended off, and then a whole bunch of other things that opened up a gate to a whole bunch of other things flooding in. You are in this cycle class. You're already pre-registered. I'm going to send you the new information. I'm sending it from a new email. I got a new setup to I got a new setup to how we all going to be inside of the class. It's new in that aspect of that space. We're going to be integrating some of the information we got in the beginning to that aspect. To everyone else, inside of that space that's going to step into that class, that's stepping into that class, we're going to be working on, with like for the first now 8 people, now it's 8, it was 10, now it's 8 people. For the first people to inbox, it's $30. It's $30 to get into the class. Inbox only. Inbox only. And that's up only until I take it down. I'll make the announcement when it's done with. But I'm going to let you know now, the last day to register for class is October 21st. The last day to register for class is October 21st. That means more likely the week before the 21st, October the 21st, will be the last week. Will more likely be before that, a little bit before that, will be the time where I initiate the full price. The full price will only be available on my website. Another thing that I'm doing as we're integrating, that's why another reason, if everybody's wondering like, oh my God, I haven't seen many lives from Lucy. Yeah, because I'm downsizing the interactions on social media. I literally pointed at my laptop on accident. We're limiting the integrations on social media. Social media is going to be more for the aspects of promotion. So yeah, I might do a video on here like this, a live every once in a while, but I'm integrating and slowly going to be stepping out of this space and creating a new space. The reason I'm saying that, because that's another major key to your integration. That's another major key to your integration. As you're now integrating into your new space, as you're now constructing, creating new disciplines, creating new processes, you have to understand that, okay, cool, I'm creating a new process. I'm in this new space. I'm in this new process. I am constructing a new space of being. There's a new version of myself. I have to create a new avenue or structure to access me. One of the biggest things that I've seen a lot of people get hung up on is, yeah, you may have been doing the work. Yes, I'm proud of you. High five. You doing the work. You out here doing the work. You are making the rituals yours. You're making your meditation yours. You're making your affirmation yours. I'm proud of you. Good job. But you're not creating the new space. You're trying to put that in that same space. It's kind of like you get this new opportunity. It's kind of like, think about it like this. And it's still the hustle. People still do this shit. It's kind of like you keep going to school for the refund check. Even though it's a good hustle, but you're not doing anything with the refund check. You're buying the same shit. Every time you go to college, every semester, you get that refund check. Instead of you being like, okay, cool, I'm going to put some of this money into an investment. I'm going to put some of this money into a contingency. I'm going to put some of this money into this. You go buy the same shoes. You go buy your kids the same shoes, an outfit. You go on a girl trip or you go on a guy trip. You get a couple of bills paid off. And then you wait till, man, I should have did this last semester and this. You keep having the idea, but because you're not used to constructing and really processing it, and processing just like protection, just like you being abundant, you being prosperous, it's not going to be based on being good and or bad. It is absolute. You are absolutely abundant in your life. If you're not waking up first thing, if you're waking up, I just told my nephew this earlier today. If you're waking up and the first thing that you have a Jones for is stimulation from a phone or using something and not learning how to integrate it into your space, so to speak, then that's what's going to drive the construction of your space. That's why you'll sit there, like use an example, you'll go on your phone right now on Facebook, you can go on Google, Amazon, wherever you go look at, and then come to your Facebook page, and what are you going to see? You're going to see 75 different ads for sauna belts. You're going to see 75 different variations of juicers, from juicers to fucking new ways to smoke and drink. You're going to see 50 different variations because you allowed something else to construct your processing, to set the terms and the expectations of your progression. You've allowed so many people outside of you to set the terms of your progression of what a strong person is, what a good person is. So you can see using them same precursors. It's time for you to step out of those precursors. It's time for you to step out of the positioning of those precursors. Yes, it happened. Acknowledge it. I can accept it for what it is. I have to now go through the assessment process of separating the title that I gave this thing, and see it as what it is. Now I can process it. I must construct the new space for me to learn myself. That's the aspect of that cycle of that 9 of Wands. That's that 9 of Wands. That 9 of Wands represents making that decision. You're coming to the end of that cycle. Nines represent end of cycles. You're coming to the end of the cycle of whether it be one singular decision or a number of unfortunate decisions that you made. Here's the thing. It's not the multiple decisions that you have to stop jumping at, the multiple decisions that you made because of the initial decision, and start dealing with the initial decision. That's the major key. You're going to have to let go of trying to use the multiple decisions. I know you can see the multiple phases of the decisions. You're going to have to let go of the multiple phases of the decisions because they're all connected to the initial decision. It don't matter which one you choose. It's going to take you back to that point, in this case, of where you said you wished. I wished I was this. I wished I was this. You said you wished you were abundant, and all of a sudden, now you don't have now all of a sudden you lost the job, the money gone, the relationship over, the friendship is in question that used to give you, but what did it used to give you? See, the aspect of that aspect, it brought you into this teetering of these aspects when we talk about those cups. It brought you a sense of balance and purpose. So every time you made the decision, it was wishful thinking you're seeking for something that you haven't constructed yet. That goes into the aspect of that decision-making process. This goes into the aspect of that decision-making process, the direction in which it's going. You have to accept the direction that's coming into that space. I guarantee the last card is going to, oh, there it is. And you got to, I'm going to put this last card. And you're going to have to sit with that aspect. You're going to have to deal with the judgment. I'm hearing, oh my God, people are judging me because maybe I might be, okay. Because that's what you're going to need to, this is things you need to understand. But 1, 2, 3 things, the aspects inside of that space. I want you to understand, like, once again, inbox me for the details to the class. Inbox me for the details to the class. Details and to get registered now for $30. For $30, you can register now. The regular price, I'll be dropping the regular price probably next Friday. Let's be direct. Next Friday, the price is going up. The price is going back. It's going to its original price. And it'll only be available to register through It'll only be available to register through the website, Chakra and Shadow. This is a 6-week interactive class in dealing with the aspects of understanding the chakras themselves, how they translate as the planetary, the energetic points, reflexology. We're going to be getting into reflexology. We're going to be getting into the human design. We're going to be getting into a lot of shit in this class. We're going to be getting into a lot of a lot of good things inside of this class. The class registration for Chakra and Shadow ends October 21st. The class begins October 31st. Inbox me to get registered for 30, get more information, get registered for the special price of $30. So you can get the time and the date. You don't get all the time, the date, the times, the date information, the availables to the class. You don't get all that. If you hit me in the inbox, serious inquiries only on that. For all other services, under energy readings, natal charts, human design, and natal charts, I do Vedic and I do sidereal. They're very intensive. Human design, fully comprehensive workout, all the way to my services, which are ongoing services and build out services and sessions. All start with a consultation, whether it's mentoring, advisory, therapy. Hit the website. I desire you, as always, I desire you to be the best. I just had that wave. I was like, you know what? I'm going to come on here. I'm going to drop some things out. I wanted to talk about the class. Let me look at this real quick. And going into the aspect of that, going in that space, I desire you to be the fucking best. You deserve it, but you're not entitled. Faith without works is dead. That honesty is understanding the first thing. The truth serves itself. The truth serves itself. The answer only serves your perception. The truth serves itself. Your answers only serve the perspective. If it's the truth, you don't have to do anything, but just speak it. When it's an answer, that's when you're trying to convince everybody around you in the space, because it's serving a perception. In order for you to accept the answer in which you want everybody else to accept, you're going to have to challenge your perspective. And that's what leads back around to that truth. I love you. We love us. That's right. Mm-hmm.